Hey everyone, welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Katie, and today I'm talking about all the books that I read in April. So I read a grand total of 34 books in April. Who knew, right? But quite a few of them were comic books, and I don't normally talk about those. I'll just say, what I read or whatever, and then we'll talk about the regular full-length books that I read. So I did end up reading 6 Archie comic books this month, which was quite a big total. I read 2 Garfield comic books, The Crash Diet and Bacon Me Drool, because those were 2 that I didn't know were out, and I do want to keep up to date with my Garfield comics, of course. And then I read the new Big Nate comic, which was called Code Red. And I love Garfield. They were probably my favorites of my comics that I read this month. They were just so much fun. Okay, on to my other books. So I did read 1 middle grade, 1 YA. I read 4 adult fiction, 1 classic book, and then I read 18 Christian fiction books. So we're going to go through the mainstream fiction and then the Christian fiction after, because the majority of the Christian fiction I have physically, sort of. All right, so the 1 middle grade book that I read was Katie and the Cupcake Cure by Coco Simon. I have my little graphic here. And I got this book because I needed a book that had my name in the title for one of my TBR jar prompts. I ended up really liking it. I gave it 4 stars, which was such a surprise for me because the cover itself, it looks very kiddish and very young reading. But I read it and I actually really enjoyed it. So in this we're following a girl named Katie. Thankfully, she has my name, so it's easy to remember. But it's about Katie, and she's going into, I think, is it 8th grade? I think so. But what really confused me about this book is she was going into 8th grade, but she was going into middle school. I was so confused because I'm like, okay, middle school starts in 6th grade, not 8th grade. I was very, very confused. So, because I was like, I was homeschooled up till 8th grade. And when I went into 8th grade, it was the last year of middle school. So that was kind of weird for me. I was like, okay. Anyways, other than that, it was a very cute book. So Katie, she's moving into middle grade, and something happens where she pretty much loses her best friend. They've been best friends their entire lives, and all of a sudden her friend wants to be part of the popular crowd. Right? We all know that story. So she ends up kind of lonesome for a little bit, but then she ends up at this other table with these kind of newer girls, and they end up starting up a little cupcake club. And it was very, very cute. I liked it. I liked the friendship, kind of creating new friendships, and her old friend kind of figuring out maybe the popular kids aren't that great either. But I really liked it. Then the only YA book that I read for mainstream fiction was A Curse of Gold and Beauty by Mary Meckham. And I really like this one. I gave it 4 stars. And this is a Rumpelstiltskin retelling. I will read anything Rumpelstiltskin. It's one of my favorite fairy tales. I just love it so much. So this was a really, really, really fun read. We're following a girl who is pretty much actually she was kind of more of the ordinary type girl. And she's somehow she ends up being engaged to the king somehow. I think it's the king. But she's in love with this poor kind of farmer type guy. But she doesn't know that she doesn't, but the king doesn't know that the guy that she likes is the one that turns things into gold. He's been pretty much hidden his whole life from his supposed mother figure, keeping him and the gold straw to herself. But I really did enjoy the storyline. It wasn't super Rumpelstiltskin retelling other than the spinning the straw into gold, because there's no romance between Rumpel and the princess, so not in the original fairy tale anyways. Now we're going into the adult fiction. So I did end up reading 1 classic this month, and that was The Murder of Roger Ackroyd by Agatha Christie. And I got this adorable, cute journal that's an Agatha Christie reading journal, and you can kind of keep track of did you solve it, what were the clues, who was murdered, and it's just a really great time. So this is the first time I ever put something into that journal, so very excited. And I did guess it, but it was my second guess. My first guess didn't pan out, and I was like, oh wait, I know who did it. So as long as I can figure out either the same time or before anybody who solves it, I still count it as a win. So I counted it as a win because I figured it out just like a few pages before Hercule Poirot did. So I think I did a pretty good job. But I gave that one 4 stars too. I really enjoyed it. I can't remember too much what it was about, but I know there was actually 2 people who were killed in the book. One was a woman who like supposedly drank poison to kill herself, and then the next one was he was murdered, but like there was no clues as to really who did it. There was like a chair that was out of place, but like the door was locked or something. Very interesting. I really enjoyed that one. It was kind of funny. I used to watch the Agatha Christie Hercule Poirot mysteries on BBC, but I stopped watching because I'm like, oh, I bet these follow along with the actual books, and I don't want to be spoiled for the books, so I'm going to read the books first. All right, so I did read that one. Then I read 2 clean romances, and one was 4 stars, and I do have a physical copy of that one, and that is A Deal with a Debutante by Chelsea Babolsky, and I will have a review on this, I believe, next week, I think, so stay tuned. But I did really like this one. I give it 4 stars. This is about a woman named Calliope, and she is an American heiress thrust into the London society to find a husband. And then we're following the Earl of Hayward, Edward Chase, who is in the brink of financial ruin for his estate, so he needs to find a wife. So it's basically their kind of match, and her like realizing like, wait, you're going too fast, even though like of course he needs to go fast because he needs the money. But it was very, very sweet. Love the Regency romance. This is actually the first book published by Haven, which is the new publishing house that Baker Publishing is doing for just clean romances. There's no faith, so it's kind of like their third wheelhouse. So check it out if you just want a clean Regency romance. I continued on with the Loved by a Highlander series by Deborah Chipotin. So I read The Highlander's Heart of Stone, and this was a disappointing one. Yeah, it was disappointing for me. I finally finished it just a few days ago, and I just didn't like it as much as the rest of the series. I thought the romance was way too non-existent. You know what I mean? In order for the couple to fall in love at the end. It just, for some reason, throughout the entire book, we're following 2 characters. One is like the stepson of the laird of the manor, and then we're following the doctor's daughter. And the doctor's daughter is kind of said to be a witch because obviously she's like, a healthcare provider, of that time. And so like, wait, is she using potions? No, she's just using herbs and stuff. But there's like an outbreak of influenza or whatever the disease was back then, and so they're both at the castle, and she nurses him back to health, but it's only like a few pages, and then for the rest of most of the book, they're both separated. It's like, when do you find time to fall in love? Like, you're not even together. Like, and then they're together like the last like 3 chapters, and like all of a sudden you guys want to get together. It's like, okay, it just happened for me. Like, there was nothing to like signify a love between them, so yeah, that's why it really didn't. I gave it 2.5 stars. So well, yeah, it was my least favorite in this series so far, and I have one more, so hopefully the last one's good. I hope it is. Okay, and then I read 2 other fiction books. One was The Locked Ward by Sarah Pekkanen, and I'm sorry if you can hear a noise. Somebody's mowing their lawn. Of course they are. I only have this last video to film. Anyways, so The Locked Ward by Sarah Pekkanen. So I give this one 4 stars. I actually really liked it. There is, though, a like fade to black love scene, just as a heads up. You get the action beforehand, but none of the actual action happening. So fade to black scene. But other than that, I don't think there was really any swear words, which is always a good thing, good positive thing. But I really did like this one. So in this one, we're following 2 women, and one is in a psych ward. She is accused of murdering her sister. Yes, her sister. And then there's another woman who finds out, somebody all out of the blue tells her that she is the twin of the woman in the prison, or in the psych ward. And she's like, I have a twin. Like, she knew she was adopted, but she's like, I have a twin. Yeah, right. But she ends up doing the test and finding out this woman is actually her sister. And her sister pretty much tells her, I did not do what I'm accused of. Please help me, in a way, because obviously the security and everything, she doesn't know who she can trust in the psych ward. but she believes she can trust her twin to help her out. So kind of her twin kind of questioning the family, questioning what is going on, what is happening, you know, trying to figure out clue by clue who did it and why. I think I kind of figured out along the way what was going on. There was definitely some surprises along the way though. Like, is the sister really crazy or is she just pretending, you know? So I really enjoyed it. Sorry, I'm waving this around. It's like my extra little sheet I don't want to lose because I ran out of room in my reading journal, so I had to put like 4 books on the side. But anyways, so okay. And then the last one for mainstream fiction was The Bone Queen by Will Schindler. I think I only picked this up because I needed a prompt for the Buzzwordathon, and the prompt was for body parts, but they had to be inward body parts. So there was bones on the cover. That counts as inward body parts. Anyways, I didn't really like this one. It was 2 stars. I like the premise, but I think they could have done things a bit differently. So in this book, something happens where this like young teen girl, she goes to like this island off the coast of, I can't remember, I think it's England or something that they're in. But the mother, like, she doesn't tell her mom or dad where she's going, and so she just disappears. And so the mother ends up going to this village because she finds out where her daughter supposedly ran off to. So she goes, and there's this like weird, strange tale of this bone queen that's supposed to like come back and like I don't know, take revenge on people or something. And I like the premise of it, but by the ending it was very much more of a supernatural story, and I think I would have liked it. No, I know I would have liked it a lot better if it just had that mystery aspect. I don't think it needed the supernatural aspect to it at all, like at all. So it was just 2 stars for me. All right, on to Christian fiction, and I do have these 3 books are just downstairs. I'm not going to go and get them, but I reread the Journey to Juna trilogy by Kim V. Engelman, and that is Journey to Juna, Defenders of Juna, and The Crown of Juna. This was my favorite middle grade series growing up, so I reread it again. I think the last time I read it was back in 2021, I think. So fun to go back and reread it again, and I still love the series. It's very much like Chronicles of Narnia, but a lot... Actually, I was going to say a lot shorter, but not too much shorter than the Chronicles of Narnia books. But if you loved Chronicles of Narnia, you would enjoy this series. It's about a few kids that end up finding this beautiful large swan named Laurel. And Laurel is like the Aslan of this world. And he's telling the children that his swans are in danger from the evil dark swan. And so he needs their help in opening up Juna again so the swans can go to Juna. And it's just a beautiful story. I love the characters. I love Laurel. And there's this one character named Teddy Theodore that I love. So it's a very good series, and I got to talk with the author on my channel a few weeks ago, and it was so much fun getting to talk to one of my favorite childhood authors, and I may have inspired her to write a prequel to the series. So that would be really cool if she got to write that prequel, because there's parts in the story where you kind of hear little snippets of the main character Margaret's uncle and her mom and their stories of Juna and Laurel, and I was like, I would love to see a prequel of their stories with Laurel. And so I don't know, the sparkle in her eye kind of caught me, and maybe she will write it, you know. Hopefully I sparked some interest in her writing it. I think that would be cool. Majority of the other books I have physically, except for like 1 or 2. So the next series, this was a buddy read with my friend Molly. I will link her channel down below because she's a booktuber here. But we read the entire Consortium series together. I don't have book 3 handy. That was The Guardian. But we have The Recorder, Aberration, and The Guardian by Kathy McCrum. And I will say, I think I overhyped myself for these books, and I think these are more physical reads than audiobooks. I listened to the audiobooks, and they just weren't as well received by me, I think. So I'm not even sure how to explain this series. So in this book, we're following 2 kind of different societies. We're following the recorders that kind of record everything the society is doing. And then we're following the citizens that kind of treat the recorders as like subhuman. So we're following this one recorder, and we just basically we call her the Recorder for like a long time. And she has a bunch of other nicknames. But her drone, they have like these drones that they're connected to that if the recorders ever have any emotions or whatever, like they're kind of zapped by their drones. But her drone is attacked on this one planet and is destroyed. And she's like, I don't have a drone. What do I do? And so this bunch of ragtag group of teens and one adult, I guess, end up befriending this recorder and saying, you know, you are worthy, you are loved by us as a, you know, as just like a family. And so I really did like kind of that aspect of it, and I like the action and adventure, but I just felt like there was so many characters. In book 1 there was 5 characters. In book 2 there was a different cast of like 5 characters, and then the third book we have like all 10 characters rolled into one book. So for me, way too many characters, and then it was weird, but like it took me like half a book to get into each book. Like it took me halfway through to actually get into it and enjoy it, and for some reason in between each book it felt like there was this giant gap of time in between each book where I was like, there's something missing. Like we needed some context in between each book, like how did she get from here to here to this point to this point. So yes, it was just very, very confusing. The series probably will not stay on my shelves because I might try to read the physical books at some point, but I think I just overhyped myself, unfortunately. So I did enjoy the first book though. I did give it 4.5 stars, but book 2 and book 3 only got 3 stars. I finished another series, which I don't think I even recorded that I was reading this series in my graphic thing, or in my chart thing where I keep track of all my series. I don't even think I had this on my list, so I need to add it. But I finished the Adelaide Spring series by Bethany Turner, and book 3 was called Wes and Addie Had Their Chance. Finally read the audio or listened to the audiobook because it was due in like 2 days. So I was like, I'm gonna just read it now, so I don't have to wait like another 4 or 6 weeks to get it from the library. So I read it and I ended up giving it 3 stars. It was okay. I honestly don't remember a lot about it, even though it was like 2 days ago. Oh wait, things are coming back slowly. Okay, so Wes and Addie. Wes is actually a presidential candidate, and Wes and Addie had a relationship back in the day, but something happened where he ends up pretty much dumping her on their wedding day and takes off. And this is like 20 years in the past. We're following them as like 40-something-year-olds now. And she ends up back into Adelaide Springs with old friends and stuff. And Wes ends up coming back to Adelaide Springs too, just for a little bit of a break from like the presidential stuff and everything. And they end up meeting each other. And of course, it's like an enemies to more type of thing, miscommunication, stuff like that. But I did enjoy it. I just found it, it's kind of funny because like, I think she writes more contemporary romance. I don't think her books are necessarily rom-coms, even though the covers scream rom-coms. Like, Bethany Turner is like super hilarious in real life, but I think her stories read more like just contemporary romances. Even though like I always hope they're going to be funny, I think they're more just like contemporary romances. But it was just okay for me. I wasn't like a super huge fan of the romance or anything, so it was just kind of an average rating. Taking a Second Shot by Leslie DeVoe, and I actually kind of like this one. I gave this one 3.5 stars. This was a love-inspired book, and I liked it. It was about a woman who wanted to be a soccer star, so she was kind of back home in her hometown, wanting to get back into the game, practicing before her next tryout was for the soccer national team. And they were following a man who, I guess, kind of humiliated her, but like it was kind of a stupid way to be humiliated, if I'm being honest. In high school, he was like, oh, I'm not gonna spoil anything, but it was kind of a stupid reason why they were enemies to begin with. I don't know, I thought it was kind of stupid. Maybe it wasn't for those characters or whatever, but anyway, so they kind of reconnect, and it's kind of an enemies to more. And the guy in the story is actually a single dad. He's actually taking care of his brother's child when his brother and his wife passed away. So I did like the storyline. I like the little boy and how he interacted with the woman in the story. Is very, very sweet. What is Left of the Night by Mark Buchanan. Thank you to the publisher for sending me a copy of this book. I did really enjoy this one. I kind of flip-flop between like 3 and 4 stars because some parts were a little bit slower, and then we're following like 4 or 5 different characters. But I think the author did a great job because in the beginning of each part, it actually says who we're following, like the pastor or the fugitive. So actually, we do get little snippets before each character's storyline, so that way we know who we're following. I think even though there was a lot of characters, he kept it very, very, very easy to follow, which is good. I think each character had their own personality. So in this one, it's during World War II, and it's in Europe, and we're following Hannah, who's a young Jew, and she loses her mother and sister while fleeing. I think the train, and she ends up in Le Chabon, in search of refuge. And then we're following a Protestant pastor, and I can't remember who else. I think we're also following a female spy and somebody else. Now I will say, as a heads up, the female spy gets a little bit on the edgy side of the spy life because of like seduction and stuff like that. So just as a heads up, it gets a little on the heavy side for that part, being a female spy during this time. But other than that, it was a pretty good story. But as I said, it had a little bit more slower parts. But I like kind of seeing the aspect of 4 different characters and how they kind of interwoved and coexisted between each of the characters. Although I really don't think they really like their lives didn't interweave as much as what I thought they would in the storyline. But I did like it. The Hidden Key of Brooke Sumner by Susan L. Tuttle. This is book 3, and I think the last book in the what series is this called? I can't remember now. Treasures of Halstead Manor. And in this one, we're following Brooke. And Brooke was a foster child, and she was pretty much kind of in love with her like best friend, who was also a foster child. But something happened in their past where they end up having like this big fight. They want nothing to do with each other, but there's reasons why he kind of left their business. They both work like at this like little shop with like antiques and stuff, where they found antiques at like auctions and stuff for their clients and stuff. Well, he ends up leaving, working for somebody else, and she's like, why did you do this? I thought this was our dream. And so they end up back together on a mission for, I can't think of his name right now, Casper. Casper kind of plays like Charlie from the Charlie's Angels. Like, he's always on the phone talking to these 3 girls and stuff. And this one ended in a way that wasn't expected. I won't spoil anything, but I was like, wow, like, okay. Okay, well, yeah, it was really good. And it was kind of funny. I was reading this book, and there's this one scene at the end of this book, and it was really funny. I was reading it, and she's so sweet. She when she has time, she's gonna read my book because I sent it to her. But I did not read this book. She has not read my book. But there's one scene that's very similar in my book, and I was like, we have similar scenes at the end of our book. That's hilarious. But I just thought that was kind of funny. I was like, great minds think alike, because we never read each other's books, so it was kind of funny. But yeah, so I did really enjoy this one. I still think the first one's my favorite, just because we get like that kind of like even more Charlie's Angels feel to it. But I did like the third book, and I really liked Brooke's story. I think I liked her relationship the best too, with her guy. The Bookshop of 99 Doors by Jamie Jo Wright. This is going to be a review on my channel, I think, 2 weeks from now, I think. And I'm planning out videos ahead. But I gave this one 4 stars. This is a dual timeline story between Minnie in 1888 and Tris in present day. And Minnie has moved into a Pennsylvania mansion that her father bought out of the blue. Well, their father is slowly going a little bit crazy, and she's like trying to figure out what's going on. There's a supposed Civil War captain that haunts the mansion. There's this terrible housekeeper that's like absolutely awful to her and everybody else. And then in the present timeline, Tris is now the new bookshop manager for said Pennsylvania manor. And something happens where her brother ends up coming to town, and he and his ghost hunting team, because they're probably like part of a ghost hunting podcast or a TV show or something like that, but she wants nothing to do with that life anymore. So he kind of, integrates himself back into her life, and she's like, I really don't want this anymore, because, she's questioning everything, and her faith like doesn't line up with what they believe and stuff. So I did really enjoy it, and of course Jamie Jo Wright never puts real ghosts in her stories. They're all Scooby-Doo. Guess who finally read a book that's been on her TBR for like 2 years? Born of Gilded Mountains by Amanda Dykes. I finally read this book. Finally, yes, and it did not disappoint. I am so happy that this is a book that I own by Amanda Dykes because I actually really did enjoy this one. I gave it 4 stars. This is my favorite by her so far that I've read, and I'm glad it's signed. Oh, it has a map. I didn't even know that, but it's signed. It's signed. So love that. And but yeah, so I bought this at a book event when she was there, and I was like, I'm just gonna buy this because kind of funny. I missed out on like getting a review book, so I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna like it. But then I heard treasure hunting, and I was like, check the box, yes please, I need to get it. So I got it, and I did really enjoy it. So this is dual timeline between two different characters, but it's the same characters. You know, we're just following them when they're kids and when they're older. So these two girls become pen pals through their schools. And something happens where they end up not communicating for like 15 to 20 years, something like that. But the one girl became an actress, and she decides to move to wherever in the mountains that her pen pal was from to kind of get away from Hollywood. She wanted her own life back. So she goes, and she ends up finding out some secrets that she had no idea was out there in the mountains. And there's also a little bit of treasure hunting involved, and I love the way everything wrapped up. The ending was icing on the cake. I really loved the ending. The British Booksellers by Christy Cameron, and I gave this one 4 stars, 4.5 stars. I actually really enjoyed this book. So in this book we're following a girl named, hold on, let me find it, Charlotte, and we're also following Amos. And it was a little bit confusing in this story, as we're following kind of back and forth between 2 timelines where we're following Charlotte and Amos, where they were friends throughout their childhood, but then decades later he goes to war or something, comes back, and he ends up running the bookshop across the street from her bookshop. Well, they're supposed to have a bookshop together, I guess, in the past, but they decide to have their own bookshops in the future, and they haven't really been communicating for a very long time. She married somebody else, and so it was very interesting kind of seeing how their lives interweave in the storyline. But it was also kind of heartbreaking too, because you know they spent all this time apart, and some things that kind of happened that kind of took each of them away from each other, which was really sad. But I did enjoy it. It was a good storyline. Some of the pieces are coming back into my memory when I'm talking about it, but I did really like it. I like the characters, but as I said, it was just a tad confusing, like between timelines and trying to follow each character's lives as they live their own lives separately and then together as well. But I did like it. Birds on a Wire by Katie Powner. Kriegel sent me a copy, so thank you very much. And I think my review is out on it already, I believe. I think that came out yesterday. But I really, really enjoyed this one. I won't talk too much about it because it is a review on, I'll link my review playlist down below if you want to check out all my weekly reviews, but I love this one. So really, I honestly didn't know Katie Powner was now publishing under Kriegel, so that was kind of a fun surprise. I was like, oh, hello, Katie. Like, I didn't know you were publishing under Kriegel, but very excited to check out her new book, and this is now my new favorite of hers because I really liked it. So in this we're following Bree and Laura, and Bree and her boyfriend are drug addicts, and she gets pregnant and ends up at the hospital during her birth, and the baby's taken away after birth and sent to a foster home. Well, Laura is the new foster mom. She just got accepted as a foster mom, and now she has her first sitting with this brand new baby. And so you get to see kind of the foster life of one side of it and then the biological side of it. And I just really loved it. I love seeing both sides and both sides of the coin, kind of, so to speak. And I just really liked it. I did wish, though, at the ending that we saw like a definite ending to Bree's story. I wanted a little bit more of Bree, just a little, just a hair, like one or 2 pages. That's it. But I did really like the story. I'm so sad. This is my last book by the author on my backlist, but she has a new one coming out in like a month, something like that. But I finally read the last book on my backlist of Cindy K. Sproul's, and that is What Mama Left Behind. I'm so sad because I love all of her books. Her books are so good and so impactful and always stick with me, but I have a feeling that her new book, I'm gonna I'm gonna eat up and love. But this one is about Worry, and she's 17 years old when influenza and typhoid ravaged her Appalachian Mountain community in 1877. Well, her mother passes away, and she has no idea what to do. She's like, I'm 17 years old. I guess I'll just stay at the house. I still have our house. And then these kids just end up on her property, and she's like, who are these kids? What's going on? And she finds out that her mother has been taking care of these kids. Like, they don't stay with her, but like she goes and brings them food and whatever they need, medicine, whatever, because their parents have been, passed away from this disease. And so now Worry is tasked to take care of all these children. And so it's such a sad story. I will look up trigger warnings for this book, because there is definitely some trigger warnings in it, but I really did enjoy it a lot, as I always do with Cindy K. Sproul's books. I give this one 5 stars. I started and finished a duology. I'm so excited. Whenever I can start and finish a series in 1 month, I did that twice this month actually. The Consortium trilogy and now a duology. So I did that twice this month. I'm so proud of myself. That very rarely happens nowadays. Back in the past, I would binge read series like nobody's business. I could not continue to a new book if I did not complete a series. Nowadays, I'm lucky if I complete a series. But I finally read these books. I read The Unlikely Yarn of the Dragon Lady and The Tangled Tale of the Wool Gathering Castoffs. Long titles. By Sharon J. Mondragon. And I love them. I will say the second book, The Tangled Tale of the Wool Gathering Castoffs, very depressing. Still good, but very sad. So just as a heads up. Not that the first book wasn't sad, but it had a lot more humor and fun in the storyline versus the second one. I felt like the second one was very depressing, but it was still good. So in The Unlikely Yarn of the Dragon Lady, we're following these women who are knitters and crocheters, and they're tasked by their pastor to go out of the prayer room and go into the community and crochet and bring people into the church. And the one lady, I think her name's Margaret. Yeah, Margaret. She's like, what are you talking about? I'm not leaving this church. I'm staying right here. So, but he kind of is revamping the prayer room, so they kind of have to leave. But they don't know that the church is kind of not doing that great. So they really do need more people that come to church. So he tasks them all to go out. And so hesitantly they do. And I just love the characters very, very much. So this one does deal with, though, a lot of illnesses and stuff. So just as a heads up. And then book 2, we're following one of the other characters in that group. I can't remember who it is, though. I can't remember which one it is. Rose, I think. Yeah, I think it's Rose, I think, that we're following. I can't remember which one we're following, but it's one of the other ladies in the group, and she's actually, she's made another prayer shawl group, but this one's in a, kind of a healthcare, wellness place, where it also deals with dementia as well, so make sure to read the trigger warnings for this as well. But this one was very, very depressing and heartbreaking. But I did still really enjoy the characters and stuff. Just very, very hard-hitting. Probably one of the hardest ones to read. So just as a heads up. But I did finish both. So yay, I finished 2 more books off my TBR. So very excited when that happens. I love when that happens. All right, then the last book, which I don't have physically, but it was my favorite book of the month, and that is South of Somewhere by T.I. Lowe. It's my second book by the author, and neither one has disappointed. I loved this one. So this was actually another Foster story, and I actually liked it better than the other one by Katie Pounder, although I liked both. Both of them were really good. But this one I felt was more of a struggle, I think, for the characters, and I felt like that was more realistic than Katie Pounder's. Not that Katie Pounder's characters didn't struggle, but I felt like this one just had a little bit more punch to the character struggle. So this we're following a girl who she's a widow with a 4-year-old, and she had an alcohol addiction, and she ends up in a car accident, and she ends up in jail, and her daughter ends up in foster care. And so she is trying very, very hard to get her life back on track because she wants her daughter back. She's really trying hard. She goes to AA meetings. She has a sponsor. She has a really, really sweet neighbor and a not so great man who comes around and tells her, you know, hey, it's all right. Come hang out with me. No, don't go hang out with him. He's a jerk. But anyway, so I really did enjoy this one. 6 stars. Loved it. I loved her strength. I loved her perseverance to try her best, you know, for everything. And I just loved it. So love the way it wrapped up. Loved it. It was a very, very sweet book. A little bit of romance, but it was more about the character story and her trying to get her daughter back. And I just loved it. So yeah, I had a couple books this month that were kind of similar in styles. The 2 Regency romances too. Oh no, that one's next month, but it was close enough where I was like, oh no, 2 Regency romances. But anyway, so had a great reading month this month. Let me know if you read anything good in April. I would love to know down in the comments. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you don't want to miss any fun videos. I would love that. And I hope you all have a wonderful day.